I think we're live now. A little different.
I hear it.
I almost don't want to say my name yet, but I will. See, guy says, yeah, it's for Chennai. I'm Brent Leary, by the way.
I'm too caught up in the song. I'm just gonna move.
I know.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
Yeah, you know, we are the CRM Playaz, and as you can hear in the background, this is the first time we ever came on to music. You know, it feels pretty good.
Yeah, it does, except it totally throws our cadence off.
I know. I'm looking at both of us, Bob, and you would think we were bobbing to two different songs.
I know. Doesn't matter. I'll go with your cadence.
All right. Well, anyway,
I am terrible.
We are coming on to this edition of CRM Playaz with a little music. The music is from the Zoho. Are they the house band? Would you call them the Zoho house?
Yeah, they are.
All right. RMD. You know what RMD stands for?
Yeah, but I think it's like Rendu Mani Dosa. It basically means something at 2 a.m. That's what it means.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this is the song, and actually the video for this song won the best video category for the Bring Your Own Band competition. And the song is actually called From Chennai With Love. And the reason that we are coming on this week for this song is because we actually just got back from Chennai, where we did feel the love, right?
Oh my God, yeah. I'm too caught up in the song. I half caught your question. Yes, we did feel the love. This, by the way, is completely written by RMD, right? This is not some cover song.
Right. All right, I'm gonna let it go here. You know, StreamYard really needs a way to fade the music because that was just too abrupt. But anyway, no, this is really cool. We are just freshly back from Chennai, from the headquarters of Zoho, and we're going to spend the bulk of this Playaz app sharing experiences. We were a group of 15 analysts, and we had a chance to spend, several days with the Zoho folks on their home court, so to speak, or I should say home campus, because it was a campus. It was a really interesting campus. So we are going to spend some time with some of our the folks that we traveled with that had a chance to experience it along the side with us. And most of us, I think, have known Zoho for years. But I think last week took the kind of the knowledge to a whole other level. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I mean, it basically, look, I mean, I think between you and me, we've known them almost 40 years between us. Right. So, but I will tell you, even though we always knew Zoho's culture was pretty unique and genuinely remarkable in human terms, seeing it makes a complete difference.
Absolutely. So, like I said, we're going to bulk of our hour. We're going to bring a number of folks on with us to talk about last week and kind of get everybody's take on it. But before we do that, a few housekeeping pieces. One thing that was supposed to happen tomorrow. It won't. A little pushback in time, but don't worry. No BS is coming still, right?
That's no BS. The show is coming. No BS in general. That's a whole other story.
Yes, Bob Stutz will be kicking things off with No BS with Bob Stutz 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's ready to roll. He is ready to roll.
So, and we're looking forward to that. So what we will do, because it was actually going to be starting tomorrow at 3, but because Bob is postponed in a little bit, we are going to air a really great conversation that we had with Sridhar Vembu at the Zoho headquarters, which was really fun. It was good to actually to have a conversation with him in the midst of all that is going on that Zoho is doing with that campus.
Yeah, I mean, it was, let's say this, it was not only just was a generally great interview, there's some very funny moments in it.
Matter of fact, since you brought it up, although there were a lot of really serious moments, we're going to play a short little clip. And believe me, this is not one of those moments. But
yeah, I remember this.
Oh, you're a human, right? They know that by just the way when they converse with you. You know how there's that word that people now use to conversate? No, I didn't know that. No, is that a new one? New word, but I hear all these people say conversate. It's awful, right? Luckily, I've never heard it. When you go back to the States, you will hear, oh, God, I conversated, right? That's brutal. Well, there's somebody not understanding English language and what it is, right? But what a great note to end. All of a sudden, when I was saying you can first, so you said I'm conversating now. You're telling me that conversate. You're really engaged with the people, and they're really engaged with you, and they know they can come to you.
Only day I prohibit on campus is no selfies, please. It became a nightmare when I walk. 50 people come follow me for selfies. You can't have a normal walk anymore. So that's the only day I prohibit.
All three of us are on the older side, right? So, I think that's like the idea of a million selfies.
Yeah, exactly.
Horrible. Right.
That's worse than conversating.
That's right. I conversated about selfies. So, boy,
This is taking an interesting turn.
all right, yeah. Conversating and we go to Chennai all the way to the conversating Chennai, huh? That's what we're doing.
So Marshall has a comment that says conversate isn't new.
Oh, it's not new. It's been around forever. If you
Right.
You know who made it popular? Biggie Smalls.
Right. See, that's the thing. My hippie beatnik friends literally never used it. Right. I would remember. But doesn't mean it. I know it's been around, but now it's like used as if it's legitimate part of the English language.
All right. Well, look who's there. See, you got a chance to meet Sahil.
Yeah, this was great. I mean, Sahil and I have been conversating for a couple of years now, actually. And he lives in Delhi, and he flew out to Chennai, and we got together and hung out for quite a while. And it was just wonderful meeting him. He's a very savvy young businessman.
Yeah. All right.
And a really good person.
Absolutely. Quick shout out. Next week, I'm talking to Neha Bajwa, a friend of ours. She's heading up. Yeah. We're going to be talking about what Microsoft is doing with Viva Sales and Chat GPT and all that kind of stuff. So I'll be spending a few good minutes with Neha. That'd be cool. Looking forward to that. All right. One last thing. Let me see. Let's see if I got this cute. Actually, we just don't have enough time to do all this stuff. I do want to do one thing because I don't think you're going to know what this word is. You see where they added like 312 new words to the dictionary?
No, I didn't actually.
It just came out with a list of.
Okay, didn't see it yet.
Oh, good. So this is Stomp the Godfather. No, Stump. How do you say Stomp? It's Stump the Godfather time, folks.
Here we go again. Okay, so in the answer to that, I don't know. Okay, so whatever. Now you can ask the question.
Here's one of the new words that was added.
Cakeage?
Do you know what cakeage is, by the way? Do you have any idea what cakeage is?
Huh.
I'm looking in the green room. Everybody looks perplexed, by the way. That nobody cake. My boss said is like, no cakeage here. No guess. You don't even have a guess?
I'm trying to like take the characteristic of cake and apply it to some human trait, but I can't. Other than that, what, a flour-based human? I have no idea, right? I am rife with cakeage, right? I mean, I'm cakeage.
Are you sure you're rife with cakeage?
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm just saying it's a flour-based human with frosting. I have no idea.
Cakeage is actually a fee charged by a restaurant for serving a cake brought in from outside. Who the hell brings a cake to the restaurant that they go to? I have no idea.
They actually took that in as a word because corkage is already in as a word.
I'm just saying.
Eric, you were right because you actually had that written before we said it. So,
Corkage fee. Wait, corkage fee? I don't even know what a corkage is.
Your corkage fee is when you bring your own wine to a restaurant and they uncork it for you and they charge a fee for you. Not basically, it's for not ordering you're basically being penalized for not ordering wine from them. So you get charged for bringing your own.
I never heard of corkage or cakeage, so we'll move on. One last one. Super Dodger.
Sandy Koufax.
I was going to say that or Jackie Robinson, but
yeah,
no, that's not it. No, Super Dodger. Anyone who, for unverified reasons, remains uninfected or asymptomatic. Asymptomatic, even after repeated exposure to a contagious virus. Now, I do know what that is. Oh, wait a minute. There's a good example of a super dodge.
That's right.
All
right. Far.
Had some fun. All right, let's get we'll get past this. All right. So we're gonna bring on about 6 of our buddies, and I asked them each to send me an image that they took from an image that they took from last week to kind of begin their part of their kind of opening statement, so to speak. So mine quickly, the picture that stood out amongst so many experiences, so many things. The thing that picture that kind of imagery that stood out to me the most was getting a chance to shake that young man's name. I think his first name is, I can't see it right now, but I know it begins with a Y. But the reason why that's so important, that was so kind of important to me, is his hand that I'm shaking is also the hand print that you're seeing with the truly Zoho imagery that was the symbol for all of last week's event. And that hand is also the hand that sketched that picture of me that you're seeing right there. And that young man drew that sketch of me about 4 years ago, and not too long after that, he was in a very terrible accident where I believe one person lost their life, and he was critically injured, and there was thought that he might not, make it, but he did make it. And then there was a thought that he might not ever be able to do his artwork, which, as you can see, is a great artist. But after years, like 2-3 years of physical therapy, not only did he survive, but he's also beginning to do his artwork again. And so the fact that Zoho, he couldn't work for the last several years. His work was trying to get better, but Zoho stood behind him, kept him on as an employee, paid his salary, paid his medical expenses, and also kept him as part of the company, as part of the team. And the reason that his hand was the symbols, because they wanted him to know that they still think of him, and they still think of him as one of their team members. And so that hand is his hand, and that's the same hand that drew that sketch, and that's the same hand that I'm shaking in that picture. So that's my, out of all the different things that we'll talk about, that's the thing that stood out personally to me. Do you have one before we bring everybody on?
Well, since you didn't ask me to bring a picture,
I did.
No, maybe you CC'd me on a note or something, but
check your instant message. Anyway,
I'll look. Why don't I do this? Why don't I give a brief overview so that we can put it in context? I mean, look, this was one of the most moving things I've ever seen in my life, because what I saw wasn't just, and I didn't just see it, I felt it, right? Look, typically you don't think of a company that's fundamentally committed to the people that both make up the company and the nations that they serve and the people and the citizens of those nations. But Zoho is, in fact, we went to the Chennai campus, but really it was a small city. I mean, I saw a company that was dedicated to education and dedicated to health. And when I say that, with small city campus as the radiating point for out into the countryside in India and so on, I saw Zoho employing not just software engineers and developers and so on, management team, but artists and musicians and dancers and architects and construction workers and doctors and medical technicians. And I mean, but the commitment was profound to making things better for people. I don't even want to put it in terms of making the world a better place. It was even more than that in a different way, right? It was making things better for people. And the thing is, the humility among almost universally among everybody, up to and including Sridhar himself, as you'll see, and you'll see a lot of that reflected tomorrow in the interview, was just astounding, given the level of accomplishment we saw, and given the level of heart these people had, and given the intelligence that they manifested. I mean, it was just amazing, and it was constant and nonstop. And just one other thing, just to give you a final thing. This is a place where they have 12,000 people there, and they're serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner for all 12,000 and guests, right? So, and by the way, the food was really good at the actual,
and free.
I want to call it, yeah, and free to everybody, right? So and during COVID, they served 40,000 people every day. Yeah. So think about that. I mean, I'll leave it with that right now.
All right, cool. All right, so let's do this. Here's the group shot of everybody that's going to come on and share their experiences last week. So I'm going to do one at a time. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to show the picture that they sent in, and then I'll bring them on. All right. Does that make sense? All right. Yeah. So here we go. The first one up. Okay. This picture comes from, I'm going to get rid of the CRM Playaz branding for this, because I want everybody to be able to see who this is. All right. So this picture is the one Josh Greenbaum selected. So let's get Josh on. And Josh.
Hey, how's it going?
Look at that tree, by the way. That's the
banyan. Yeah, the banyan. Actually, they're sitting in front of the banyan tree in this picture.
Okay. Well, explain this picture and explain how this kind of represents your experiences from last week.
This is it. You know, culture starts at the top. And I took this picture, and I'm reminded of Candide by Voltaire. In the first chapter, he describes Candide, and he says in French, pardon my French, sa physionomie annonçait son âme. His facial expressions projected his soul. And this picture did that for me. These two people, that's Sridhar and his sister Radha, looking at this art presentation, actually, that was part of what what you were talking, Brent, talking about in your opening. And this is them. This is the company. Just the heart and soul is right here. And I just sort of thought, and they're looking at the banyan tree behind me with their employees in front of it. Behind them is a crowd. The no selfies thing. There's a crowd of employees leaning down, just to watch this, with all the love and respect that they command legitimately. So this is my sort of, and I put this on Twitter. It was the most viral thing I've ever posted.
Wow. All right. Thanks, Josh. But I do have to ask, you also sent in this. I have no idea what this is about.
I had so much fun taking tuk-tuks all over Chennai. I just went wild. And this one guy in particular, he had these hand signals. There was the 4 fingers out, and there's one where he's pointed down. In other words, Lord knows, I think it's like some protective talisman around the tuk-tuk, because he just was, doing that thing, weaving in and out of traffic and doing the hand signals, and somehow the magic envelope, kept us from being destroyed. And it was incredible.
That's a good thing. All right, Josh, thanks. We'll bring you back after we get everybody else rolled out. All right. So who's next? What picture is next? Let me try here. Phil. Okay, let's bring out Phil Rainwright because this is his picture. Hey, Phil, how you doing, man?
Pretty good, thanks. Yeah, so this was at the end of, or in the kind of final part of the trip where we left Zoho headquarters in Chennai, and we flew for an hour or so down to a very remote airfield, and then got on a coach and drove for another 3 hours. They served us lunch on the coach, and we ended up at a place called Tenkasi, which is right down in the southern tip of India. Tenkasi is where Zoho has established a farm and a school near to one of their very local offices. So on this land, they're cultivating some stuff. But this picture is of the person who runs the school down there in Tenkasi, and looking on actually is Vijay Sundaram, who is the COO of Zoho, and came with us on this trip, and actually was with us every day of the whole event. And this school has been open for kind of a couple of years now, and it has pupils from the surrounding area, which is a very kind of rural area. It's kind of, in Britain, at the time of Brexit, we talked about left behind communities. This is a kind of a left behind community that's missed out on all of the prosperity that's concentrated in the big cities as India develops as a country, and so the kind of the traditional education that's available to the people who live in that area is not of a high standard, and this school takes in children from elementary all the way through to high school, and when they leave, they're kind of well educated, and then they can go on to get work and so on. But what I particularly wanted to focus on with this picture was, thanks, Sandy. That's the name of the school, Kalavani Kalvi Malayam. And so we're outside the school building here, and this is like a little plot of land where the pupils actually grow crops. And this is one of the things that I really like, because I actually trained as a teacher before I ended up in the computer industry. And so I was really enthused by the fact that, as part of the curriculum, they have this opportunity to grow their own crops. And what she said, this teacher, was that part of that process, that exercise of growing crops, is they learn to cooperate. It's like they learn about being part of a team. They're learning all these social skills that they might not otherwise get. And kind of, so the photo really kind of illustrates the way that this school is not just training them to read and write and everything, but it's educating them to be, effective members of society, and really focus on. I mean, they were talking about three values that they try and pass on to the pupils, which is, and I'm going to look them up actually, because I don't want to misquote it.
Well, we're going to move along pretty quickly because we got some other folks, but
yeah. So just to finish off, their three principles are developing the children's self-confidence, their self-drive, and their self-discipline. Awesome. And so it's really looking at developing them as people rather than just teaching them stuff.
Awesome. All right, we'll bring you back after we get some other pictures in here, Phil. Thanks a lot. All right, so who's next? Why don't I know who's next? Oh, this is Jeremy.
Jeremy.
What a picture. All right, Jeremy.
Hello, hello. And actually, just following up on Phil's thing, what impressed me so much was just look at the kids. Just look at the excitement, the enthusiasm, the happiness, the love that they share. It's just so wonderful. And my sort of reflection was, I wish I'd gone to a school like this when I was a kid. You know, learning that self-confidence, developing their aptitude for whatever turns them on, you know, finding their own path, and then, you know, having the self-discipline or sort of reinforcing the self-discipline so that they can achieve their own individual aims. I thought it was just amazing. And the color, what can you say? And the performances they gave in their dancing and their singing, it was extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. And it was a privilege to be there with them. I thought they were phenomenal.
Yeah, so happy and so well mannered. I mean, gosh.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, one of the reflections also from my last night, I had the pleasure of getting a debriefing in our local pub, talking to a chum of mine about this and saying, wherever we went, little kids would smile and wave at us, and they're just such lovely people.
Awesome.
Phenomenal. And of course, Zoho has been incredibly generous to all of us, not just in their time, but also their gifts that they gave us too. It's phenomenal. Yeah.
All right, Jeremy.
Yep.
We will bring you back after a couple of more pictures. All right, here we go. Who's next? I mean, these pictures are awesome, by the way.
I agree.
Mike.
Thanks. So this one's obviously in the school as well, but I wanted to take a slightly different tack on this. The first thing, and I guess this was just kind of in general for the whole week. The thing that you know about a company, you know what they tell you, and we've known them for many years, but you don't actually know them in the context of their own sort of surroundings until you actually go there and live there for a while and interact with all of them. And I think that's, for me, that was one of the biggest things that I just took away from the week, was how different I felt about the company. And it's always a company that I think does a lot and has been a great, model to look at for a lot of things. But after being there, it really made a big difference to me in how I see them. But the other thing that they talked about a lot was experiments. And they talked about how when they want to do something new and they encourage this, they start everything with an experiment, and that experiment, when it works, then just continues to grow and grow and grow. And that's really what happened with this school idea, was how can they, be a part of the local and the global. And I think that the school really puts them in the context of a very local, rural setting, and what they can really give back to their community as a part of their whole, what I sort of think of as a people system. They have the education that starts very young, and then they have the opportunities for people who don't want to go to college but would like to work for them, and they help pay them, and they guarantee them jobs, and they train them. And like, this all was really amazing, and not something that I necessarily had focused on about them. And then I think the last thing about this picture is sort of two pieces. One, this was in the 3 to 6 year old group, and they're doing multiplication. I don't know if you saw that, but yikes. I'm pretty sure they didn't teach me multiplication when I was 6. So, and then the other thing is, through all the pictures I took, it was the pure joy in the kids that I just saw of how they welcomed the opportunity to be a part of this, to learn, to gain the self-confidence that they did, was just amazing, and made me feel so good about what they were doing there.
Awesome. By the way, yeah, your picture taking skills are par excellence, by the way. That's just a beautiful picture. All right, moving along. Who's next? Gosh, these stories and these pictures are so great. Rebecca. And Rebecca, she's been reunited with Patrick. So Patrick,
But that's a selfie.
Patrick picture.
Yeah, so this was when we were down on the Zoho farm in Tenkazi. Sridhar was pleased to drive around and show us his take, show us his house, show us his home, really. But also what was interesting was showing his neighbors. What they've done with this community and this farm is not just to create a school, but really to raise up a whole community. And we had the opportunity to meet one of his neighbors who was very excited to see him. And they, they're really not just investing in a few kids, but there's really an economic multiplier there, right? Sridhar said, it cost me at Zoho University 10,000 rupees to educate a child, but I increased their annual income by 18,000 rupees annually. So it's a great return on investment for Zoho and being able to build out its workforce, but also in enabling folks to, have these economically important jobs that they wouldn't have otherwise, which of course translates out to their families, their communities, their villages.
And look at those nice smiling faces. And what's cool about this picture is you got Liz, and that's one of the new, not new to me, analysts. I can't remember her name. I know it begins with an A.
Ankita.
And then there's our buddy Paul Dave up north. So he's a customer, Zoho customer. So you got represented a lot of things going on in this picture, and so this is really cool. And the only thing missing is Patrick, really. So that's the only. Okay, there you go. All right, let's move on. We'll bring Rebecca and Patrick back in a minute. And next up is, look at
that native garb.
That's right. He's the one. He's rocking it. Now he actually sent in 2 pictures, but he also sent in pictures of smiling children, and we've seen a lot of that, which is great. So I wanted him to talk about this. So hey, Dave. Hey, you're rocking it now. It looks like.
Malavanakam.
Tell us about this, man.
So this is interesting, man. So, I was actually born in Jamaica, the island. And so I remember driving from the airport, right, when we drive into Tenkasi. I remember seeing the villages and the road. It reminded me a lot of my early childhood. So I was just like thrown into this nostalgic, just this fit of like, wow, I remember my grandma's home. I started remembering, all these memories as a kid. And drinking from coconut was actually something that we did in Jamaica as well. So it was all these memories were just like piling on. And then it was just sort of like a relaxing environment, and you sort of feel the warmth and the love. And I just threw myself into the culture. I just wanted to experience everything. So I just, did the whole humble yourself, and the kids were just smiling, and I was just like smiling back. And if you don't feel what we felt when you're here, you kind of have a hole in your soul. And, and so it was just one of those amazing experiences where you just started feeling all the feels, and everything just felt right. You felt welcomed and warm. The hospitality was just great. And wearing I guess this traditional garb was just a part of me just sort of connecting, with the culture and connecting with everyone there. And it was hot, y'all. That sun was no joke now. That sun was no joke. All right. And
yeah, absolutely.
So I was connecting with that sun. So.
All right. This is great. All right. So that's the last picture. So let me get rid of the picture and then bring the whole crew back here. And let's see. Do I got it?
God, I'm getting dizzy watching this happen.
I think I got everybody right. Yeah, I think we're all back. All right. We're all back. So I'm just gonna, just to throw it open. Somebody talk about something that maybe either surprised them about Zoho, or possibly changed something that they thought they knew about Zoho. Just something that was just struck you as, wow, I didn't get it before, or wow, I didn't have it right, or man, this is just greater than I thought. Any of that kind of thing.
Can I jump in real quick? What amazed me was the multicultural aspects of the company itself. That and this is my naivete about India, that they were amongst themselves mostly conversing in English, because in any given room, at any given moment, there are 6 linguistic groups represented from 12 different parts of the country. The Punjabis from Northwest, the local Tamils from the Southeast where we were, and they had to speak in English, which sort of struck me as extraordinary, but also both part of the legacy of colonial India, but also part of the company's sort of forward-looking sense to the world, that they can take their culture out because they can ride on the back of this, for better or worse, universal business language called English.
I think, from my standpoint, it wasn't look, again, I've known him 2 decades, and I've always understood as time went on, I increasingly understood that they are really a public service company. Even though they're a business, they're a public service company committed to, creating the ecosystems to really help people. And I always got that. But what kind of hit home in a funny way was just the depth and scope of it all was way more than I thought. I mean, I always thought it was big, but not like what I'm seeing, which is integral to, at least parts of, if not all of India and other countries too. It's beginning to, impact them. And one of the things that just a little thing, and I mentioned it briefly in the beginning, that just caught me by surprise was we were all up at the roof looking at the building that's being built in the sort of the center of town. And Sridhar mentioned that they had Zoho employed construction workers, right? And that for whatever reason, that just hit me like, oh my God. Because look, I knew they had farmers, and I knew they had artists and musicians and dancers, and I knew all of that. But it never, and I even knew they had medical personnel, right? But construction workers just hit me as, wow, this is like way more than I expected, just simply because of the fact they were willing to hire people who are really, what other software company do you know? And they're not really a software company to me. They're an infrastructure company that, among other things, sells software. And but what other company, at least in our domain, has their own construction workers? And the implications of why are obviously the thing that really hits home. So that was, for me, like, wow.
I mean, associated to that, Paul, I would say the other thing that I saw there that really surprised me was how much went beyond technology. Right? I expect them to have software developers. I expect them to have product managers. I expect them to talk about that stuff. I didn't expect this.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't expect to go and see artwork that was done by employees that were in that school program where they pay them a stipend every month and give them 2 years and guarantee them a job if they complete the program, and like all the stuff. It just really that surprised me. The depth of and the commitment to the employees and the people, and all of their local markets, not just in India, but in Mexico and the U.S. and Canada, everywhere.
Can I follow up on that? So, because I think Zoho is a company that kind of turns all of your preconceptions on its head. It's as Michael just said, it's a vertically integrated company from like top to bottom in an era when when companies are supposed to kind of focus on just like one horizontal kind of bit of what they do and buy in everything else. It's a company where they take a bunch of industry analysts out to India to be on their campus, and all we can talk about is the trip to the farm and the school that happened at the end of the trip. And what has all that got to do with technology and CRM? The whole trip, but the company itself, it makes you think.
I think
I could add to that. We saw it last summer in Austin. We got a sense of their values and their sort of principles and how they operate in the world. And I think the visit that we had really sort of reinforced that. And I see Zoho as an organization that's gone way beyond, a positive culture within it, clever with technology, but actually is a company that's got a soul. It's a real innovative, transcendent company. And my sort of greatest wish is that, they've shone a light on how business can be. And my greatest wish is that more organizations, more companies will buy into it. And it's not ticking in the box of CSR and all that kind of malarkey. This is real. This is absolutely real. And the value that they send out in sort of ripples across communities, as well as within their own organizations, is phenomenal. I've never come across a company directly like that. I mean, historically there've been companies like that, like the Quakers back in the 18th century, the Cadburys of the world building villages and schools for their employees, things like that. But who else does this? Very, very few companies. So I think they've set the standard of how business should be done.
I think we talked a lot about culture when we were there, and for me, it was sort of distilling the culture of Zoho that is distinct and different, but integrated through the entire process, whether it's thinking about bringing up villages or educated employees or using product development as a way to develop talent. Really sort of the whole idea about thinking about personal responsibility of individuals and what their contributions are. That's not something you can put on an org chart.
Yeah, I agree.
And there was certainly that was reflected in all of the employees.
Yes.
And just the energy on the campus and the energy in Takasi as well.
Yeah, I agree, because there was sort of this way of life that sort of transcended the office. That sort of, it's like this from home, but also in the office, it was this way of life, how they lived. And it's beyond culture. It was just this sort of focus on people and just how they just live naturally. So there was this natural flow, even just the way they, taught those interns or students that they were doing art there, but then they also incorporated those students in the headquarters into the regular business, where they were also being mentored and trained. So there was this way of life and way of living that I thought was really interesting and unique.
I mean, think about a company that's literally impacting biological ecosystems. I mean, who does that as a tech company, for God's sake, right? They don't.
Unless they do it negatively, yes, but that's a different
right, different way. Let's say who consciously and positively are impacting biological ecosystems. They look, honestly, they blow me away, and they always have. But this was just another level. In fact, here's sort of a well, it's not a it's a personal announcement. I'm actually, I'm in semi-retirement now, so I'm kind of winding some things down that I did already there. This is fun. Let's say this is fun, and as Brent can attest, doesn't earn us any money, right? So this is what I like to do, but I actually sat down with Sridhar and Raju to work out how to work with them pro bono, to foster this. I'm not going to be going to India very often, so in the U.S., right? And we came up with I'm not going to get into it now, but we came up with the foundation of a game plan. But I had planned on that anyway, but that was it. I just it was time to get the details. So that's what I mean. I'm pretty careful about how I spend my time, let's just say. Right. So, but this one wasn't really a difficult choice.
Just curious, how much of what you saw do you think plays a role into the actual business success of Zoho?
Yeah, that's what I was sort of saying, Brad. There's this way of life, this culture that's natural to how they live, that I think is just natural to how they do business. The focus on, focusing on people, being good to people, just being decent, and good to people. Don't treat them as employees, which is something that I know in the States and during the pandemic, is something that we all sort of giving lip service to, or we got to not look at people as people. They were doing that naturally, focused on the people more so than the profit.
And I mean, I think when you look at the levels of disengagement of employees in most organizations, and various polls have come out saying it, 87% or 75 or whatever it is, but a huge amount of, and then this revolting sort of concept of human resources. I mean, the employees, the way I would look at it is if your average firm looked at employees as batteries, they would be like due for a recharge. If you go to Zoho and see all their people, they're absolutely bursting with energy, bursting with enthusiasm, because they all buy into it. It's their life.
Yeah.
Let me just add, though, it's not entirely from the heart, though. This heart is so enormous. I had a fascinating set of conversations with Vijay, who actually turned me on to a book called How Asia Grows, and which he said was one that Sridhar sort of passed around the company. I highly recommend it. It's its own manifesto of how, in this particular writer's, Studwell is his name, how certain parts of Asia became extraordinarily successful, certain parts didn't, and how that difference, how to make that difference. And this is part of the intellectual foundation of the company as well. So it's grounded in heart and mind, in a very extraordinary combination of the two.
I think one of the interesting things for me too was seeing how the way they think about people impacts product development and in fact product marketing, right? So if you look at what they're doing with Zoho People and People Plus and the whole employee experience space, their biggest challenge, I think, today is being less humble, actually talking about the value of what they have and being able to stitch that story together when they're competing against some very well-funded and brilliant marketers, shall we say. There's a lot.
Well, actually, David,
in the story of pulling together what they do for people, how they think about people, and how that translates into the way they prioritize product development, and really what they have from a value perspective for employees and employee experiences that can translate through their software.
So I was just going to say, David Forster, who was the customer from Simco who was with us on the trip, I specifically asked him about the kind of company ethos, and he said, well, when he made the buying decision, this was not something that he was even aware of, but as he's got to know the company, it really builds his trust in the company as a customer, and so it does flow through to the customer loyalty, and then that kind of and there's also employee loyalty. I mean, they have tremendous kind of retention. We met loads and loads of people. It was almost a joke that however long people have been with the company, and if someone had been there for only a year or two, they were a baby compared to most people. A US company will say, our staff are our greatest asset, but as soon as a downturn comes along, they let go 7%.
Yeah, well, to your point, you'd meet a 45-year-old person who'd been at Zoho for 23 years, right? So literally half their life, right? And that was the other thing. I mean, Zoho's policy is don't ever. Sridhar, when he founded the company, made a commitment to never lay anyone off ever, and he has literally stuck to that policy. And I think in 27 years, coming on 27 years, he's fired maybe 22 people, which is a number I got a couple of years ago when at that analyst summit we were at before COVID. But it was like 22 people, and that's for cause, So the thing is, that's one thing, and the other thing, which is just a stat I saw while I was doing something online when we were in Chennai, Zoho was the #1 most profitable company in India, 28% profitability, right? So and they were literally number one in all of India. So, you want to look at the business side of it. Obviously, they're doing quite well with that. But I think Sridhar made a point in one of the discussions we all had with him that they don't just take their money and give it to each other. They use it, right? They use it, and they're doing things like building out medical instruments that are cost effective and portable and connected, so that they can go from the city, whatever the Zoho city there, to with the hospital, the 200-bed hospital they're building, and radiate into the rural areas and actually have affordable medical care or affordable free medical care, in the rural areas. I mean, all of these things. Look, there's business in there, obviously. I mean, but at the same time, they're impacting. Again, it goes to the heart of their heart, right? Really, and that just never has no business decision is overwhelms a decision that impacts no business decision overwhelms their heart. It just doesn't happen there.
I mean, I think, Paul, something underneath that they said that I really appreciated was, and they were really clear about this, when you start to talk about their model and how unique it is, they're like, no, we're capitalists. Like, we want to make money. We want to have profits because we want to take those and invest them back into the community, into the people, and to the things that we can do that are positive for positive impact. So sustainability means something different to them, and employees are treated. When we have some tech companies that talk about family and then they kick their family out of the house. They don't do that, right, and I think that is a very interesting and different take on what capitalism is.
Actually, you guys got to, Brent and I didn't go to Tenkasi due to other commitments, but you guys got to. You saw farms in Tenkasi, right? In addition to,
the farm,
yeah. I mean, talk a little bit about that, because that's one area we really haven't touched on too much yet, but that's a big component of what they're doing, even here in the U.S. So,
and a lot of the food that you ate while you were eating in those cafeterias actually was grown on that farm. That was one of the things they made a point about, was that they've cut the middleman out. They grow food, they grow great organic, high quality food, and they sell it to themselves to feed their employees and other people.
What did you see them growing specifically? Did you see?
Brent, I think we have a pic. I think we have a picture of some of the things they were growing.
Okay.
Right. Where is it?
I emailed it to you. It to you.
I got one thing. Let's see. This is
that was at the farm.
They don't eat
God.
So
we need Liz shouting cow, cow.
Cow. They produce something like 60 liters or so of milk a day. Wow. That is then used in the community, used by the school children. But a number of different crops that they were working on. And it's interesting, a lot of what they're thinking about is sort of the regenerative agriculture stuff. Yeah. And how do you create more sustainable farming programs, and obviously there's been a lot of work and investment in India and other places over the decades to create more sustainable and regenerative agriculture practices, but wedding the technology know-how, the experimentation mindset, and real boots on the ground, or real hooves on the ground, shall we say, is very, very interesting.
Well, I remember.
Yeah, and those cows actually are an example of that. So, because the picture is of Jersey cows, which were on the farm when they bought it, but they're gradually replacing that with native cattle. And there's an organic principle here, because I'm trying to think of the polite word for what comes out of the back of a cow, but basically it's better for the soil what comes out of a native breed than out of these imported Jersey breeds.
The cow dung. There you go.
Yeah, that's the word.
By the way, was anybody else like I don't know, originally freaked out when You get on this bus and you see a bus and 1,000 motorcycles and those little rickshaw things, and then see a cow just walking in the middle of all that.
That is every trip to India, Brent.
Yeah.
I think Indians must be the best drivers in the world because they can judge distances of sort of, the cigarette.
That's what the hand signals are for. Yeah.
Yeah, it's how they avoid each other. It's just incredible. Yeah, absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
We use hand signals in the U.S. for something like that too, right?
They work really well.
Yeah, make some road rage and stuff. Yeah.
All right.
Traffic is a metaphor for the perpetual dance. Actually.
Yeah. All right. So we're coming up at the top of the hour. Just last thoughts. Anybody, everybody, whoever wants to get in with the last thought. The floor is open.
I think for me too, even back with the Tenkai thing, that's where I think you saw the heart of Zoho. Again with the farm and the school with the kids and the children, and that's I guess the part that sort of summed everything up to me when I saw those children's faces. They're smiling and they were just wanting to high five us and be around us, and that was just amazing. And like I said, if you didn't feel that, then you have a hole in your soul, right? And it also goes, to I guess the humility part of Zoho. I think Sandy just posted something in the comments about the Zoho's humility, and I think that's what you saw, right? You see that it's a humble people, right? They are connected to themselves, to each other. They're connected to the land, which we saw at the farm, right? They're connected to the next generation, the children, and it's and as Sandy was saying, they're growing at their own pace, right? And not like how we saw with the layoffs in the past, month and so forth, where companies are trying to keep up with the Joneses and just growing, just for growth's sake, and Zoe's not doing it. They're sort of growing at their own pace and being true to themselves and being true to the people. So it was, for me, a great experience, and I'll forever change, for it. I'm not gonna cry or nothing, y'all, so don't worry.
I'll join you if you want to, Dave.
Have a cry session. Let's have a cry session.
It was touching. Every possible way.
And to Dave's point, just sort of drilling down on the culture question, the entire notion that sort of capitalism and benevolence don't necessarily have to be mutually exclusive, that caring for people and making those investments in people can deliver, as Paul said, great profitability, which should be a model for all of us.
Profitability across a big, broad set of
I mean, and thinking of everything in a system, right? That's the whole idea of investing. You start in the local market and you're growing kids up through, and then you have programs that can help them come in and learn different parts of the business and guarantee employment. And, it's not just you have to go to 4 years of college and spend tons of money and go in debt. There's other alternative ways to get involved here and become a part of the system. And the people that come in, I mean, you said it, we saw people that had been there for 20 plus years, and that was the average had to be closer to 15 than it was to 1 for sure.
Oh yeah, there was one panel where the average age on the panel, the average service with Zoho on the panel, I did the math, was 22 and a half years.
Yeah,
and there was like 8 people on the panel.
Before this show is over, I just want to say thank you to Sandy. On behalf of all of us, we've got to say that, and it's not just because of who she is, but also because of how she wrangles. Literally, I'm gonna put my Texas hat on. How she wrangles this company to be open to the folks like us who have something to learn, is hopefully something to teach as well, and also helping them transcend the kind of culture we have in the United States and fit in that. So Sandy, you're amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. And Pooja, here's the Pooja.
And Pooja. My mom.
In the world.
Really, really Nandri to the whole Zoho team.
Indeed.
As she schooled you all for.
Yes, indeed. Classic Sandy. Thank you. You're right, Sandy. You're right. Yeah, Olivia, Alex, we've got a team.
Yeah, the whole team, absolutely.
Yeah, it would be really, this. Can you think of? And I this might not be fair, but I'm really trying hard to think of another company that would be able to pull something like this off, and it's kind of hard.
Patagonia. But
well, okay,
different way, right? But like in a totally different weird way.
I don't really deal with them, but okay.
Too expensive.
It's just kind of hard right now, at least with the freshness of this experience, to see how another company could actually be as authentic and pull that off. And it's kind of hard for me to think of anybody that could do that right now. And I'm just seriously asking, do you guys, you don't even have to name any company, but anybody else in the industry, any other potential companies that you see could do something like that and have us come back still feeling positive about the experience?
Well, let's put out the challenge.
Yeah.
Do it.
The Zoho challenge. I like it. Let's make it go viral.
Ooh.
The Zoho challenge.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
TikTok and everything. Let's do it.
I was trying to be funny, but I'm finding it very difficult to envision anybody else doing that.
You're right. I mean, maybe besides some mom and pop shop or something that has a more of a family sort of business, I don't see any
$8 billion
company doing that. Yeah.
All right, so Anand says there are. Anand, put something down. Let us know. You know, if you want to name somebody, just let us know. It's escaping me right now.
I don't have a clue of anybody.
Or even take a step back and make the challenge be to have an analyst meeting with no PowerPoint.
That was so good. That was so
and
good.
Detailed product overviews just to learn about the company and the culture.
You know, and Phil and I were on the analytics BI session, and Phil, I don't know if this struck you the same way it struck me, but every person that was a lead, as we've been saying, they've been there. I think the person that had the least tenure was 4 years, but most of them were between 18 and 25 years. And not only had they been together, or they have been there individually, but they've been there together like that. And it showed in the way that not only were they explaining to us what they do, but you could see the collaboration and the ease of interacting between all of these folks. And it has to play a significant role in the ability for them to do what they do. And I'm just wondering, are there other companies? How much are other companies who are always seeming to have to hire new people every 2 or 3 years? How much is that impacting their ability to get as much stuff done as these folks are able to do because of the cohesiveness and because of the ease of interaction that they seemingly have? It just struck me throughout the very first panel where we see Schroeder next to his sister, you know, and all these people saying, I've been here 25 years, 23 years, 22 years. And the way that they communicate across all that they do is, to me, it was one of the other striking things.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Sorry, Phil. Well, I was just going to say that I think that if there are other companies like this, they would have to be private companies, because if you're VC backed, or if you're a publicly listed company in the US or the UK or wherever, you would not be allowed to do the sort of long-term investment, particularly in people and in kind of social activities that Zoho is doing. So, you know, and I think that's one of the reasons why there are so few examples of companies that are like that. It's because there's a kind of crowd effect that means that the majority of businesses kind of follow the same model that everyone else follows.
All right. Wow. All right, folks. This has been great. Thank you so much for joining us and sending in your pictures and your thoughts. It was really cool to do this journey with all of you guys. It was,
it was awesome.
It's really fun to be able to work with so many people and then have a trip like that and share this kind of learning experience. So, I mean, Zoho, just for that itself, thank you. I mean, I really appreciate it.
Dave and I are having lunch in a couple weeks, right, Dave?
That's right. Bring the coconuts. You have to bring the coconuts.
No, no, Josh. Wait a minute. Josh is a singer, and Dave is a rapper / You guys should maybe there's something there. Maybe
let's do it. Yeah, like do like an acoustic set. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad's got a barn, and we can do a show.
There's a platform on PPN for you.
All right. So, on behalf of wow, a lot of people. I'm not going to do it individuals, but I'll just say I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Players, and since we did see Patrick, it's only we have to do this. We have to end with Minnie, and we will see you all next week. Thanks again.